My name's Joe. I'm 45, mechanic, born and broken in Michigan. Grease under my fingernails and no illusions left about what family really means. I met Haley at a street fair on a July afternoon thick with heat and the smell of kettle corn. She was drinking lemonade from a plastic cup, laughing with her sister. That laugh caught me, not because it was sweet, but because it sounded tired, like someone who'd done her share of enduring. She had 2 kids. Nolan was 15, already built like he knew more than me. Lexi was 12, all eye rolls and earbuds, asking her mom for things without waiting for an answer. Their father, Grayson, had disappeared after the divorce. Sometimes a check came, sometimes it didn't. Birthdays passed without his name on the envelope. But his ghost stayed in the house. You'd hear it in the way they compared everything I did to what Dad used to do. I never wanted to be a replacement. I just wanted to show up. So I did. Every school pickup, every practice run, every flu shot. I learned how Nolan liked his burgers, plain, no tomato. I went to Lexi's choir concerts and clapped louder than anyone. When she needed a laptop for school, I bought it. When Nolan needed cleats, I paid. I kept receipts, but not for myself. Just in case Haley ever needed to see how deep my investment ran. A year into dating, we moved in together. By the 3rd year, I'd put the down payment on a ranch-style house at the edge of town. My name on the loan. My money on the line. Haley helped pick the curtains. The kids picked their rooms. I paid the bills. That first winter, I built a fire pit out back and grilled steaks in the snow. We drank cocoa in fleece blankets. Nolan laughed, really laughed, when I slipped on the deck and landed flat on my ass. I thought maybe that was the start of something. I thought a lot of things. The cracks didn't show all at once. They splintered under the surface, slow and patient, like frost under concrete. It started with little things. I'd ask Nolan to take the trash out. He'd pretend he didn't hear. I'd tell Lexi to stop leaving wet towels on the couch. She'd roll her eyes and keep scrolling. If I pushed back, I got the same line every time. "You're not my real dad." And Haley? She just sighed. Said they were going through phases, that I should give them time. They'll come around. But time didn't make things better. It just made me quieter. 4 years in, I came home one night after a double shift, walked in the door with my boots still caked in snow salt, and caught the tail end of a conversation in the living room. Nolan was sprawled on the couch, half watching TV, smirking. "When Joe dies, I'm taking the truck. I don't care what anyone says." Lexi didn't miss a beat. "You can have the truck. I'm selling the house." They laughed. My tools were still in the truck bed. My knees still ached from crawling under some poor bastard's transmission. I stood in the entryway, listening to their voices cut through the air like wire. That was my house. My name on the mortgage. My hours keeping the lights on. My hands keeping the roof from leaking. And they were making plans for it like I was already dead. I didn't say a word. Just walked past them into the kitchen, cracked open a beer, and stared at the fridge, at the photos taped to the door. A school picture of Lexi with a forced smile. A Polaroid from Nolan's baseball tournament. A Christmas card with all 4 of us in matching pajamas. Fake smiles. Staged warmth. I looked like I belonged. But that moment told the truth. They didn't see me. Not really. They saw what I gave. That night I couldn't sleep. Not because I was angry. Not even hurt. I'd been through worse. I've had engines blow up on me. Been laid out in the ER with broken ribs. Buried my father without $1 left in the bank. I've tasted rock bottom. But this wasn't pain, it was clarity. A clean, cutting realization. I was nothing but a sponsor. Haley called it love. The kids called me Joe. The house called me back every month for the mortgage. And I answered every time. Until that night. The next morning I took a sick day, the first in years. I drove out to the county office and pulled the paperwork for a living will. Then I went to my lawyer and drafted the rest. It was easy. Cold but easy. I removed every name. No mention of Haley. No provision for Nolan. No safety net for Lexi. Just my signature and one line in bold. All assets to be directed to the Michigan Tradesman Foundation, Scholarship Branch, priority given to aspiring auto mechanics. The house, the savings, my tools, everything I'd built, everything they laughed about inheriting, gone from their hands. I drove home, laid the folder on the dining table, big and red, labeled with a sticky note, "Since I'm not family." Then I packed a small duffel, just essentials, left my work boots at the door. Haley always hated when I tracked dirt inside. Took the truck, drove out while the house was still asleep. By the time they woke up, I was gone. Lease signed across town. Utilities split. Bank accounts unlinked. Credit cards canceled. Insurance updated. My name remained only on the bills they used to ignore. I didn't leave a goodbye, just the will. Let them read it and understand. Let them laugh about the house again. Now it's not theirs to laugh about. I spent the first night alone in a 2-bedroom apartment above a bait shop. The carpet smelled like dust and cigarettes. The faucet leaked. The walls were thin enough to hear the old man next door coughing himself to sleep. But for the first time in years, no one called me just Joe. There was peace in that. By noon the next day, my phone was buzzing. "Haley, where are you?" "Lexi, Mom's freaking out. What is going on?" "Nolan." Bro really ran off like he's in a movie face with tears of joy. I didn't answer. Not then. Not ever again in the way they expected. I got to work. Changed every password. Closed the joint credit line. Canceled Lexi's dance tuition. Removed Nolan from the car insurance. Sold the backup vehicle. Froze the cards. Called the bank and moved my savings into a new account under my name only. Every system they leaned on, every soft, invisible net I had stretched beneath them for 7 years, disappeared. And then I went quiet. The silence lasted about 3 days before Haley broke it. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Her message came in all caps, furious, like rage could rewind what had been done. I read it, then closed the app. By day 5, Lexi was calling me immature. Said I was abandoning them. That I was acting like a child. A child. After years of rent payments, health insurance, school costs. After every father-daughter dance I paid for but wasn't allowed to attend. Every birthday party I funded but stood behind the camera for. Every holiday I spent grilling while they opened gifts addressed from Mom. Now I was childish. Nolan's response was simpler. He sent a photo of the living room, empty where my toolbox used to be, with one word, LMAO. There it was. The real measure of who I was to them. Entertainment. A ghost that paid for Spotify and groceries. They thought it was a game. That I'd come back when the dust settled. That I'd crawl back like I always did. Head low, wallet open, dignity buried under some excuse about how family works. But this time the locks had changed. By the end of the week, the silence began to shift. It wasn't rage anymore. It was fear. The Wi-Fi shut off. Power got flickery. Lexi's studio called about unpaid dues. Nolan's gas card was declined. The fridge that never emptied started to echo. They reached out again. Not yelling. Pleading. "Haley, can we talk? I'm sorry I didn't say anything when they said that. I should have stood up for you. Lexi, you were the only real one. You did everything for us. I see that now. Nolan, we didn't mean it. Please come home." But I didn't want an apology born from inconvenience. I wanted truth. And I already got it the night they laughed about my death. The night they told me with every flippant word that I was nothing. So I stayed gone. Nights were quiet in the new place. I'd come home from work, microwave leftovers, sit in a chair I didn't have to share, and listen to the silence of a life not built on obligation. It was lonely, but it was clean. Then came the paperwork. They tried to transfer the house. I rejected it. Haley filed to refinance. Couldn't get approved. Lexi tried applying for college loans, but the tax returns they'd used for years still had my income on them. Suddenly their world shrank. The walls they thought were theirs began to crack. My roof needed repairs. The payments came due. No one there knew how to fix a broken pipe. No one remembered where the circuit breaker was. They had depended on me so long, they forgot I was ever doing more than standing quietly in the background. And now they were on their own. A month in, Haley showed up at the garage. I was elbow-deep in a busted exhaust line when I saw her standing by the entrance, arms crossed, mouth drawn tight. She didn't speak at first. Just looked at me like she was trying to remember the version of me she'd married. "You really left us," she said finally. I wiped my hands on a rag. "No," I said. "You pushed me out years ago. I just finally listened." Her face tightened. "They're kids, Joe. They didn't mean what they said." "They're not kids," I said. "They're adults when it benefits them. Adults when they want phones and cars and tuition. But suddenly they're kids again when it's time to be accountable?" She blinked. "You know what Nolan said," I continued. "He said when I croak, he's taking my truck. That was just. Lexi said I wasn't family. She didn't mean. She meant it. And so did you when you didn't say a damn thing." She flinched at that. I dropped the rag on the workbench. The weight of years behind me. 7 years of paying. 7 years of being dismissed. 7 years of being a wallet with hands. "You let them walk all over me. And I let you." She stared at me. I think, in that moment, she realized how deep it all went. How long the silence had been eating away at me. Not just their words, but hers. The way she never stepped in. Never defended. Never reminded them that love and respect weren't conditional. Her voice came softer. "They miss you. We all do." I shook my head. "No. You miss the life I paid for. You miss the ease. The comfort. The steady flow of someone who would keep giving even when you stopped seeing him." Tears welled in her eyes. But I didn't move. "I changed my will," I said quietly. "It's on the table. You saw it." She nodded slowly. "They're not in it. Neither are you." A pause. Then her voice cracked. "I made mistakes." "So did I," I said. "Mine was staying too long in a house where my presence was optional and my paycheck was mandatory." She stepped forward, but I stepped back. "I don't hate you," I said. "But I'm done." She nodded. Just once. No drama. No begging. She left with the same quiet she had always weaponized. Only now it was hollow. That night I slept better than I had in years. The messages didn't stop. They just changed shape. Haley sent long blocks of text at 1 a.m. Some full of apologies. Some full of blame. She switched tones like someone flipping light switches, trying to find the one that would illuminate a way back to how things used to be. But there was no used to be. There was only what had always been. Lexi called next. Her voice cracked halfway through a voicemail she didn't know would go unanswered. "I was awful. I get that now. You were the only one who cared. I didn't know how to say it before." Then Nolan. No apology. No voice. Just a message. "Come home." That's all it said. Not "we miss you." Not "we're sorry." Just "come home." The same command tone he'd always used when asking for rides, for cash, for things he thought were owed. Even in absence, he couldn't find humility. Just expectation. But expectation is a weight you carry in silence until your back breaks. I had already walked away. The next week was when the collapse began. First the power, then the gas, then the Wi-Fi. Nolan's insurance policy lapsed. The company emailed me, asking if I wanted to reinstate coverage. I clicked decline. Lexi's dance studio emailed Haley about overdue fees. When they called me, I told them to direct all future questions to the legal guardian on file. The credit cards? Closed. Accounts? Separated. The house? Listed. The payments were no longer automatic. The comfort they mistook as endless had dried into air. That was the true test. Not their anger, not their tears, but the silence that came after they realized they had no more leverage. Then, 2 weeks later, Haley knocked on my apartment door. She looked smaller. Not physically, but like someone who'd been holding too much together with too little. She clutched an envelope and wore that old coat she never liked. Her hair was pulled back, face bare, eyes swollen from a night she probably didn't sleep through. She didn't wait for me to invite her in. She handed me the envelope. Inside was a letter from Lexi. Handwritten. No emojis. No sarcasm. It said everything she'd never said before. How she remembered the nights I waited outside dance recitals. How I stayed up helping her write essays. How I drove across town for a last-minute school project when she was too scared to ask her mother. How she called me Joe because she thought Dad was only something reserved for the man who vanished, but that she wished she could take it back. It was honest, painful, regretful, but regret is just recognition without action. Haley sat down on the couch across from me. Lexi's pulling out of school. Nolan might lose his scholarship. We're falling apart. I nodded, said nothing. She swallowed. You proved your point. I looked at her. It wasn't a point. It was a boundary. But they're trying now. Because they're desperate. Not because they changed. She didn't argue. Just sat there, staring at the floor like it might open up and explain something she couldn't grasp. I waited. Gave her the space she never gave me. I let them treat you like help, she whispered. I said nothing. I thought you were strong enough to take it. Still nothing. Then, I was wrong. I watched her, waiting for more. Not because I needed it, but because she did. People like Haley always needed to narrate their guilt out loud. Like confession could clean the slate. She looked up, blinking fast. Can't we fix this? And I told her the truth. No, because some things don't bend. They just break. I walked her out. She didn't cry, didn't shout. Just nodded and left, carrying the letter and the weight she never helped me shoulder. The following days were quiet again. No texts, no voicemails, just a slow settling of ash after the fire. I kept going to work, greased up transmissions, changed belts, rebuilt what was mechanical because at least those things had instructions. Then one night, around 9, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Nolan standing there. No jacket, no swagger, just a hoodie and that look kids get when the world stops cushioning their falls. He didn't say hi, just asked, "Can we talk?" I stepped aside. He came in, stood awkwardly near the window, looking out over the parking lot like he expected someone to rescue him from the conversation. I dropped out, he said. Couldn't keep up after the payments stopped. I nodded, let the silence stretch. He turned to me, eyes red. I was a dick. I raised an eyebrow. He looked down. I treated you like crap. All those years. Still, I said nothing. I didn't mean it. But you did, I said. And that's the point. You meant it every time you said I wasn't family. Every time you joked about what I owned. Every time you ignored me when I showed up. He sat down, rubbed his face. I didn't know what I had until it was gone. He nodded. I leaned forward. I loved you, Nolan. You and your sister. I put everything I had into that house. Into you. I didn't need you to call me Dad. I just needed respect. His voice broke. I didn't know how. That's not an excuse, I said. You knew how to ask for my money. For my time. You just didn't think I mattered enough to deserve anything back. He didn't argue. Just nodded again. Quiet. Crushed. I'm not coming back, I said. Not to the house. Not to that role. That door's closed. He wiped his eyes. But you can still choose who you want to be from here, I said. Not for me. For yourself. He left 20 minutes later. Said thank you before he walked out. It was the first time he ever had. Lexi called the next night. Said she wanted to meet. I said no. She asked if I could forgive her. I said forgiveness isn't something you ask for like a favor. It's something you earn. Over time. With action. She understood. Or said she did. I didn't hang up. But I didn't offer anything either. Sometimes the best apology is letting someone sit with the absence they created. That week, I updated the will again. Kept the scholarship fund. Left a small note attached to the legal packet. To those who show up. Not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. Then I locked it in the drawer and made peace with the silence that followed. Because silence, when earned, is no longer loneliness. It's freedom. It's been 9 months since I left the house with the red folder on the table and the keys on the hook. 9 months since the text messages dried up. Since the anger cooled into silence. And silence hardened into absence. Haley hasn't tried to reach out again. Not since that final conversation. Not since I told her I wouldn't come back just because the roof was leaking. Or because the tuition bills kept arriving with no one to pay them. She finally understood. I wasn't the janitor of her life. Nolan moved in with a friend from his old job. Last I heard, he works double shifts at a warehouse, early mornings, no benefits, no college credits. Lexi stayed with Haley, taking online courses she pays for in installments. She applied for grants, tried a few service jobs. But none of it stretches like my support once did. Grayson never showed up. Not when Lexi called. Not when Nolan tried to reach him. The man they protected like a saint. The name they used to strike me down. Didn't even pick up the phone when it mattered. Blood is loud when it's convenient. But it goes mute when the bills come due. As for me, I rebuilt. Not fast. Not clean. But deliberately. I found a new place. Smaller, quieter. A second-floor walk-up over a shop that sells used books and burned coffee. The walls are thin, but they're mine. The lights are dim, but they answer only to me. My toolbox lives in the coat closet. My boots by the door. My sleep is dreamless. And I no longer brace myself when I walk in from work. Because no one waits with expectation. No one looks through me. And no one laughs about what they'll get when I'm dead. Most nights I cook for one. Sometimes two. Her name is Rachel. No kids. No ghosts of men past. Just clean hands, clear eyes, and a voice that never cuts sideways. She doesn't ask me for anything but my time. She doesn't ask me to be anyone's father. We talk. We laugh. We sleep. And sometimes we say nothing at all. Just sit in the silence and let the absence of chaos fill the space like something sacred. I never told her much about my old life. Not the real version. She knows there was a house. Knows there were kids that weren't mine. Knows something happened that burned the whole thing down. But she never asks for the ashes. She just holds my hand when the air gets heavy. Sometimes, though, when I'm driving at night and the roads are slick with memory, I still see them. Nolan, slouched in the passenger seat, mumbling about gas money. Lexi, in the rearview mirror, texting while I carry bags into the house. Haley, sitting at the kitchen table, silent as her children reminded me that I didn't belong. And sometimes I see them now. Lexi at the gas station. She doesn't make eye contact. Just keeps her head down, swipes her card twice because it always declines the first time. The same girl who once laughed about selling my house now struggles to fill her tank. Nolan outside the community college, backpack hanging off one shoulder, face drawn. He doesn't see me. Or maybe he does and chooses not to. Either way, there's no wave. No apology. Just distance. And you know what? That's fine. Because distance now is a boundary. One I earned. I gave them years. Years of labor. Of effort. Of restraint. And in return, I got contempt. But contempt doesn't scare me anymore. Because it's powerless without access. They spent years building their comfort on my back. Laughing under my roof. Spending from my hand. They told me I wasn't their father. That I didn't matter. That when I died, they'd inherit the spoils. Well, now they know what it means to be cut out. Not just from the will, but from my life. They stood by and watched me carry the weight of a family I was never invited into. They mocked me when I buckled. They went quiet when I broke. But now they carry themselves. Now they live in the world they built. One where love is conditional and sacrifice is expected but never reciprocated. And I live in mine, the smaller, quieter, but it's honest. Every part of it is earned. Every dollar, every moment, every night I sleep without wondering what's being said behind my back. It all comes from the choice I finally made, to stop begging for respect, to stop explaining my worth, to stop financing contempt. They never asked what it cost to stay, but they learned what it costs when I leave. That house? Sold. That comfort? Gone. That man they dismissed? He's free. And the scholarship fund, the one I set up in place of their inheritance, just helped a kid named Miguel get his first set of tools. 18 years old. Raised by his aunt. Works 2 jobs and still managed to graduate with honors. I met him last week. Showed him how to bleed brakes. He thanked me 6 times in an hour. That's legacy. Not blood, not guilt, not silence, but presence. Earned, respected. Sometimes I wonder what they tell people now, Lexi, Nolan, even Haley. Do they pretend I never existed? Do they spin the story, paint me as the villain, the one who left? Maybe. Let them. Because I didn't leave. I was never invited in. I simply stopped standing outside the door. So now I ask you, was I wrong? Was I cruel to take back what was mine? Or did I finally do what every ghost dreams of? To stop haunting people who only see you when they need you? You decide. But I already have.